Hey guys, Alex Jordan here, and today we're going to be starting a new series. We're going to be trying to get different self-publishers interviewed on this channel. I won't lie, it's my first interview, so we'll see how it goes. But as my first interviewer or interviewee, we have none other than Dale L. Roberts. Dale L. Roberts is an Amazon best-selling author and publisher. He has a personal workout brand on Amazon and many other pen names, and he's been self-publishing full-time since 2014. He also has a publishing YouTube channel that has 22,000 subscribers called Self-Publishing with Dale, and he also runs the website selfpublishingwithdale.com. Dale, how are you doing today?
I am fantastic, dude, with a glowing, intro like that. Dude, you're going to be my hype man. I'm going to take you everywhere I'm going to go here. You're just going to go ahead and rattle all those things off. You did wonderfully.
Great, thank you. Okay, so to get started, so what did you do before you started your online business / publishing?
I was an activities director in the healthcare industry for over 20 years, actually just exactly 20 years. Essentially, I was paid to play with senior citizens, and it was an awesome, awesome job. I loved it. And a lot of people thought I was insane when I said, I'm going to become an author full time. A lot of people are like, what are you doing? Don't you like your job? But I'll tell you, it's led me to this life that I have now, and I'm super, super happy for it. But, anybody that expects me to have that backstory of just a horrible boss, my boss was awesome. Horrible employers, my employers were awesome. I had a fantastic job, and honestly, the sky was the limit. It was looking like I was going to be moving into more of a corporate role. But that's not everything in a bag of chips. And I really wanted to see more for myself on a more independent basis. And what led me over to becoming an author full time.
Great. I guess you kind of answered it, but I guess I'll ask it. What made you directly get into Kindle publishing / being an author? So you're working this job, right? What made you like, oh man, I want to be an author?
It was the fact that I am an obsessive person. I've got an obsessive personality. I wouldn't say I'm OCD by any stretch, but when I set my mind to something, I really go all in on it. And my job started to consume my time, and it started to eat into my personal relationship. And there's nothing that I hold higher than the relationship I have with my wife. She's very important to me. And I hope that anybody that watches this, understand that don't ever put anything in front of your family. Now, if you happen to be a single person, a single gal, single guy, and nothing else is in the way, then go for it, But for me, I felt like, man, this was really starting to put a wedge between the two of us. So then I was able to say, okay, can I do this whole writing thing? And I had already published my book in early 2014 and had the modest results of about $20, like $23 and some odd cents. I can't remember the exact amount, but it was $20. And I was like, I'm going to be rich because if I focus on this full time, what else could I get out of this? And thankfully, my wife was running a very successful Amazon FBA business, and I was kind of her lackey, for lack of better terms. And that was going really well. So we had at least that safety net and the additional safety net of my savings, 401k, so on and so forth. So that's when I decided, let's go ahead and burn the boats. Let's go ahead and do this. And I gave my 30-day notice to my employers and said, all right, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to try to become a full-time author. Now, I'm going to tell you, it was ugly after that. I was lazy at first. I wanted to do everything my own way. This will tell you my mindset. And you're going to just love this, Alex, that what I thought was, like, I'm just going to go ahead and publish my own books. I was going to get like a warehouse full of books, and I was just going to sell them myself. And I was like, I'm not going to do any ebooks. So I had no intention of getting into Kindle Direct Publishing. Heck, I didn't even have the knowledge of it. I'd only just published my book through CreateSpace. And it was only the fact that it was free to publish through there is why I went to it. And I was like, there's no real risk. I can go ahead and publish this, and let's see how it goes. And I'll take all those earnings and I'll go ahead and get a garage full of book. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit the streets and, hit the pavement and get everybody, copies of my book. And then I came to find out ebooks are really a big deal.
Great. So you kind of touched on it, but what were some of the things you had to overcome? So you had laziness was one of them, where you are now between going to, I want to quit my job to having the lifestyle you have now? What were some things that you had to overcome, and how'd you do it?
Ooh, laziness was one. I think the main part of me being lazy was ego and believing that I could just write something and put it out into the world and people would come to me. Now, looking back on it, obviously, I'm able to say, wow, idiot, you can't just publish and pray for the best. And I hope that anybody that's watching this, whether you are a fiction, nonfiction, or a no content, low content book publisher, folks, you can't publish and pray for the best. That is a poor marketing strategy. And if you aren't making any kind of earnings and you haven't done anything for marketing or, gotten out there and more exposure, you have no sales, that's on you. That's on you. And that's what I came to find out was I was my own worst enemy. And how I got out of that funk was I got sick of eating ramen noodles and frozen vegetables for every stinking meal. And when I looked into my bank account, I had already zapped all of my savings. I burnt through my 401k. The Amazon FBA business was kind of going on a downward hill because it was becoming very flooded at that time. And we were doing our best trying to keep up with it. So I just said, you know what? I just surrendered myself to the process. I searched for somebody that was more knowledgeable in this space and could show me the way to do it. And that's where I found a gentleman named Jason Brock. And Jason actually trained me, and I paid a good top dollar to work with him for a while. Eventually, we became best of friends, and I tried to pay him at one point, and he's like, "You could stop paying me." I'm like, "Why? Like, you're my coach, you're my mentor, you're supposed to be doing this." He's like, "You're coming and teaching me things now, man." Like, I was like, "What? Really?" And so the rest is history. That's pretty much the motivation was, oddly enough, ramen noodles and frozen vegetables and the fear of going back into a 9-to-5 job. And I'm going to tell you, by this point, I'm unemployable, at least in my mind.
That's awesome. So at what point did you feel like you achieved success in this Kindle publishing game, where you felt like, I'm proud of what I've created at this point?
Oh, man. It probably took somewhere about, I would say it was 2 years. I try to generally, because it was about 2014 that I launched the first book. It was about January to February of 2016. Oddly enough, a few months later is when I launched the YouTube channel. I was probably pulling in these, and see, I don't like usually sharing paychecks and stuff like that on my channel because sometimes it just gets this inflated sense for a lot of people. They think that, oh, wow, this is what everybody does. It's not necessarily, but I can tell you what I experienced for the first 2 years. There was months where I would make $100, $200, sometimes $300. But I, for some reason, hit that cap. And when I got my mentor and I started working with him, he just kept telling me, Dale, you got to believe in the process, have faith, you can do it. Next 6 months, you just listen to what I say. You're going to have your breakthrough. And I swear to you, it's 6 months to the day that I hit international best-selling. And a lot of people might go, oh, international best-selling. Well, this means that it was on Amazon. It wasn't in some obscure category because remember, I'm a fitness author. So these were in highly competitive categories, and it started selling not just in the US, in Canada, UK, Australia, Brazil, and it kept hitting number one. And I'm like, what is going on? Oh my gosh. It was like all of this work I'd put in started to come back and reward me. And I was able to finally break that $1,000 per month threshold. And as soon as I hit that, it was like that confidence. And as soon as you break that first $1,000, I swear it's like blood in the water for a shark. You're like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to gobble this up. And so the rest is history. But I would say it was right around January to February 2016 that I really started seeing the success and having confidence in myself.
That's awesome. You can definitely tell. Do you just tell them that you have the confidence behind that and you're really passionate about that? So you started, publishing, your under your own pen name, your fitness brand. So what was kind of the progression of how you evolved to more so of a publishing house, and what are you kind of working on today?
Oddly enough, see, I'm glad you brought this up because a lot of people, quickly assume that the only thing I publish is the Dale L. Roberts brand. And I've actually written under a number of pen names, and I've also outsourced even some freelance writers that I put pen names on and built brands on. Initially, in my first few years, I was really heavy into building out my business. I scaled probably way too soon. But the good part is, as soon as I understood the process and hired a coach and a mentor and saw how it worked, I was able to go back and tweak some of those other brands and launch additional brands. So you go right about 2016. April 2016 was when I launched the YouTube channel. It was done out of necessity because a couple of interviews I had on YouTube elicited response from the viewers. And they would reach out to me directly through email, Messenger, you name it. The problem was it was eating up my time. And I wasn't getting enough time to actually do my own work. So I was like, you know what, why don't I just answer questions by way of video? So people want to know how I format my books. I did a video. People want to know how I research keywords. I did a video. And I could talk about how I had that huge ego of how I thought I was going to blow up and I was going to be the next PewDiePie with this type of information. And fast forward sometime later, I'm nowhere near millions of subscribers, but at least I have learned in the process and humbled myself and checked my ego and understood that this is all just a learning process. And part of that learning process, I was able to apply to becoming a small publishing house, as I would refer to it. And it really helps to diversify what you have out in the water. I'm just going to say this to anybody that's an author. If you're an author, this is great. Kudos that you've written some books and you've put them out into the market. But you got to start thinking, okay, what happens if the rug's pulled out from underneath me, underneath this specific avenue? What am I going to do to combat that? This is why I always try to tell people, consider other avenues, courses, merchandise, YouTube channels, even video in general, podcasting. If you diversify everything that you're doing, if something happens to dry up, you're not being forced to go back to a 9-to-5 job or answer to somebody or go back to ramen noodles and frozen vegetables. So that's why I do the small publishing house. Going forward, and this is something you and I were talking about, I was like, we better go ahead and talk about this inside the interview. Going forward, though, and going into 2020, my big plan, and you can hold me to this one, is going to be pivoting from the fitness brand to self-publishing, because I've been in this space so long, I've consumed it. It's an obsession of mine that I was like, you know what? It's time for me to take the Dale L. Roberts brand that normally on Amazon is committed to fitness, and I'm going to finally move it over to the information that people really are popularly known for. Sadly, I got known for becoming a fitness author, and that was what brought me to self-publishing with Dale. And then that just became a two-headed beast, and it just eclipsed everything that it did for the fitness brand. That was a long answer to a very short question.
Hey, that's great. It seems like you got a lot of plans. So so now for the audience. So what are your tips for new publishers? I'm sure you get this question a lot. So, what are some of your tips?
Let me give you 3 good tips. So that way we're not going too deep into this here. First one's going to be just write it. Just write the stinking book. I have so many times that people come to my channel or they email me and they want to know, okay, do I need an ISBN? Should I get an agent? What kind of formatting should I use? Okay, great. Okay, so what's your book about? And they'll have a rough idea. I'm like, have you written it? No. I'm like, have you done an outline? No. Just write the stinking book first. So that's going to be number 1. Write the book. If you haven't wrote a first book, write it. Now, this seems kind of backwards, because if you watch my channel enough, I usually tell people, do a little bit of the research ahead of time and then go write the book. But in some instances for newbies out there, just write the book. Tip number 2 is just do it. Take action. It's so funny. I've got my shirt on right now. Massive freaking action solves everything, baby. Just get it going. And don't be afraid to make mistakes when you're doing this. You got to be a bull in a china shop. You're going to break a few things in the process. But the nice thing is, if you make mistakes, you can take a step back and say, how could I have done that better? How could I have become more successful on that specific avenue? And then adjust your trajectory and then go forward and do it again and do it again and do it again. You have to take action. And last but not least, number 3, okay, this kind of ties into number 2, but it is be okay with being imperfect. Okay. Imperfection is beautiful, folks. And I see a lot of people out there that, I met one guy, he wrote a series of books for over 5 years, and he was a sweetheart of a guy, but I'm like, good Lord, you're saddling everything on this. Like, he was hedging all his bets on this book series he was doing for 5 stinking years, and he hadn't even released anything out into the market yet. So here's the thing is, don't try to be perfect. You will never be able to measure up to that vision you have in your mind if you don't just take the action and just do it. So this is what I share with you is embrace the perfection in imperfection. So be okay with it being less than what you expected. The best idea is just to take that action. You make a mistake. Oh, hey, guess what? It's not the end of the world. You're just going to go ahead and adjust and become better from that point forward.
Dude, awesome tips. So yeah, we're hitting towards the end. So I suppose one of my last questions is, if people want to learn more about you, whether for coaching, content, or something else, where can they find you?
They can find me at selfpublishingwithdale.com. That's my little hub there. You can find everything from YouTube to Twitch to Twitter and everything else in between. So just head over to selfpublishingwithdale.com. It has my contact information on there as well. I do have a nonfiction coaching program opening up here coming into February. So they're going to want to make sure they go visit the website for more details.
That's awesome. And I'll attest to Dale, even though we didn't talk about that, he's completely white hat. You don't have to worry about, anything you're, black hat or anything. So
I have to stay. Unfortunately, at this point, Amazon KDP pays really close attention to me. They watch my videos. Hi, how's it going, KDP? I have to stay on the straight and narrow. So thank you. I appreciate you attesting to that.
Yes, that's awesome. And then final question, I didn't ask you, but how long did it take you to grow your beard out?
Oh man, I just shaved it down recently, hence my crooked goatee here because I don't know how to shave it worth a darn. Probably, let's see here. I started beard stubble around October, around Vid Summit, and I just said I'm not going to shave it anymore. So it grew about this length. We'll say towards this goatee, about 3 months now. So because we're right now January 8th, so October or the beginning of October was when it was. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much for, being, my first interviewee. I really appreciate it.
First guest, man, you need to do me a huge favor. Once when you get to, episode 100 of your interviews, you circle back around to me. We're going to have a lot more fun and maybe do a review show.
We totally will. Thank you so much. And, I'll see you around. Thank you.
Thanks.